God bless our homeland, Ghana, and make our nation great and strong, bold to defend forever the cause of freedom and of right. Fill our hearts with true humility. Make us cherish fearless honesty, and help us to resist oppressors' rule with all our will and might forevermore. And help us to resist oppressors' rule with all our will and might forevermore. Fill our hearts with true humility. Make us cherish fearless honesty, and help us to resist oppressors' rule with all our will and might forevermore. And help us to resist oppressors' rule with all our will and might forevermore.
Our country, Ghana, has attained the spectacular distinction of being the first and only African country to hold 3 presidential debates back to back. Attaining democratic maturity is like trying to reach the horizon. The closer you get, the further away it is from you. Yet, we should not stop trying.
For every debate, there are rules and formats. So the format and rules governing these debates are as follows. There will be 4 rounds of questions with 2-minute breaks in between. A new candidate will begin each round of questions. This is based on the pickings done during the balloting for seats.
A broad spectrum of this nation was consulted, and their responses feed into the questions which will be addressed to our candidates. Over 200 responses were received. The Presidential Debates Committee did a yeoman's job of trying to go through the questions, crunching them from over 200 questions to 55, and identifying certain broad themes and topics under which to arrange these. This ultimately became the economy, good governance, and social issues.
All of you have put in your manifestos that you will want to put money in the pockets of the people of Ghana. This implies creating jobs. What specifically would you do to create more jobs?
The state must create an enabling environment. And indeed, the Constitution says very clearly that all political parties are to foster an atmosphere to promote private sector growth. Now, when you come to the productive areas of the economy, because the economy must be such that it can help the private sector to produce jobs.
The private sector is the agency generally responsible for creating jobs. What do we need to do to strengthen our private sector? Immediately, 3 things come to mind. First of all, we need to pass in Ghana a domestic content law that insists that procurements, activities, like for instance in the oil industry, that 25%, whatever supplies go into that industry, have to be procured from local sources and from local producers.
Notwithstanding the existing institutional and legislative measures to fight corruption, there is still a persistent concern that corruption is rife in our political and public life. What further measures would you institute to deal with this problem?
What will I do? First, leadership by example. Secondly, at the legislative level, separate the position of Attorney General from that of Minister of Justice. The Attorney General will be independent. He can prosecute both sitting ministers as well as those outside or anybody in business. Thirdly, make sure that you put in conflict of interest laws. That's the legislative level.
So I'm very, very focused on what we need to do, both at the personal level as well as at the institutional level, to make sure that we really get a grip on this fight against corruption. I'm not saying it's the most important issue before our people, but it is clearly a very important matter, and we need to get a grip on it.
We all agree that the Assets Declaration, the situation as it is today, is not acceptable. So we should all agree that whoever becomes president sets the process in motion to ensure that it doesn't remain a secret sitting at the Auditor General's office. And it is not just for the president, it's not just for the ministers, it's for the members of parliament and other government officials. It should apply across the board to everybody.
I, as leader or as president, will lead the fight against corruption. I will not allow any of my ministers, my party faithful, or cronies who are involved in corruption to go scot-free. I will let the law take its course. Number three, we have institutions which are supposed to deal with corruption. Are they well-resourced? Do they have their independence? Are they able to prosecute after they have come out with their reports? We should give them the wherewithal to be able to do this. You know, with corruption, you must be seen to be biting and not only barking. Example is very important in this respect. And I, as president, will lead the crusade against corruption, because corruption has very harmful effects and they detract from the economic achievement that we want to make. And I think that it is the responsibility of those at the top to set a good example.
What specific measures would you put in place to transform the rural environment and improve the quality of life there?
The bulk of our people live in the rural areas. So decisions that you make to transform their lives are how best you can transform the lives of Ghanaians. So 2 or 3 specific things. Clearly, we need to open up the rural areas, i.e., the whole process of infrastructure development, feeder roads and the rest, has to be accelerated and expanded throughout our nation. Secondly, the measures that you need to put to make sure that economic activity is improved and enhanced. We're talking about largely farming people. So what you need to do to improve their access to credit, what you need to do to improve their access to technical expertise that will improve the way in which they go about their farming activity, what you will do to improve their access to their market.
And since we're in the north, let me use the north as an example, because it's agriculture. But if it's agriculture, what the state must do is it must take on the responsibility to say that we will transform agriculture, mechanize it, which means subsidize inputs, more extension services, which means more silos for storage, which means helping make sure that we indeed do have agribusiness.
My 2 or 3 previous colleagues have had collectively 16 years together in government. They haven't done any of this. We have a program in our manifesto called Growth Poles and Urban Renewal. Growth Poles and Urban Renewal. We are going to select certain potentially growing areas in the rural areas and give them an infrastructure with an agro-based business there.
So peace before, during, and after the elections. If you just
Peace before, during, and after the elections.
thank you very much.
homeland, Ghana, and make our nation great and strong, bold to defend forever the cause of freedom and of right. Fill our hearts with true humility. Make us cherish fearless honesty, and help us to resist oppressors' rule with all our will and might forevermore. And help us to resist oppressors' rule with all our will and might forevermore.